Oh, it's not enough to even know or besides, I think the big one, I don't know anybody. I don't have the kids. I don't know anybody.
Yeah, you just don't.
It's by mileage.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like. So it's a good, I'm excited. I think there's a good this is not my area of expertise, and I've done that kind of work in security, but this is very good.
Kylie. Okay.
Well, the attorney general, obviously, so I really wanted to know for her. She was just looking at the whole course, and I saw just all the good work she's doing, just taking a look at, like, the people who can protecting citizens' scams that I just feel like a lot of work is being done in this office. And I think I work with, I just love it too. I work with all the companies, San Christine and Jonesy, but other areas of I got a lot of friends who are like, if you questions about it, cut you off
Morning, you guys. Okay. Good morning. Thank you all for being here today. I'm Attorney General Kris Mays, and I wanted to especially thank Goodyear Police Deputy Chief Chip Kirk for being here with us. I also have Roger Geisler, one of our top special agents, and Dave Harvey, our police liaison here at the Attorney General's with me. It's not every day that we get to share news that has the potential to bring hope to those that have been waiting for answers for far too long. Today, I'm proud to announce the creation of a cold case unit within the Arizona Attorney General's office. This unit reflects my commitment to ensuring that justice is not forgotten or abandoned, no matter how much time has passed. In Arizona, there are too many families who are still searching for answers. Families who have spent years, sometimes decades, wondering if they will ever see justice for their loved ones. These are parents, their children, they are siblings, and friends who have carried the weight of unanswered questions for far too long. It is for them and for the victims that this unit was created. The cold case unit will work closely with local law enforcement to re-examine unsolved cases, applying fresh eyes, advanced investigative techniques, and modern technology. With the advancement of DNA testing, data analysis, and other tools that simply did not exist when some of these crimes occurred, we have new opportunities to try to uncover the truth and to hold those responsible accountable. Additionally, I'd like to say we are reaching out to our state's universities and colleges to talk to them about whether we can develop new software, potentially also using AI to help solve these cases and compare cases that have occurred in the past. I want to be clear that justice has no expiration date. This is about more than solving crimes. It's about providing justice for the victims and their families. Every cold case represents a life that mattered and a story that deserves to be told. Today, the unit is focused on 5 cases, and I'd like to share a little bit about them. Please listen closely, because we know that there are Arizonans out there who have answers. We'll start with Leslie Karen Good. Leslie Good was a 39-year-old resident of Goodyear, Arizona, who was shot and killed in her home in 2008. She was a mom of 3. We are working with the Goodyear Police Department to find justice for Leslie and her loved ones. We know that someone knows the truth. We are also highlighting the case of 21-year-old Sabino Lopez. Lopez and his family are longtime residents of Tolleson. In 2018, Sabino went on a walk in his neighborhood. While walking, he was confronted by 3 male subjects in a silver SUV. Sabino was shot, and although officers responded and emergency medical services transported him to a local hospital, Sabino later succumbed to a gunshot wound. The 3 subjects have still not been identified. We are working with the Tolleson Police Department to find the answers that Sabino and his family still haven't gotten. We know that someone out there has information about Sabino. The same can be said about Victoria Lacey. Victoria Lacey, a 25-year-old woman who was stabbed to death in Glendale in 2012. In August, one early morning around 4 a.m., residents of this neighborhood were woken up by a loud knock at the door. It was Victoria. She was in need of help and had been stabbed. When the medics got there, all she was able to share was her name and that she did not know who had stabbed her before she ultimately succumbed to the stabbing. In 1996, 20-year-old Diana Shawcroft and her best friend, 19-year-old Jennifer Luth, also were living in Glendale with Diana's older sister. After an argument, the 2 younger girls left their apartment on a walk, making their way to a mini mart. Diana and her friend Jennifer bought sodas and cigarettes and spent some time outside the mini mart. A few hours later, the cashier watched as both girls got in the back of a truck with a man who had pulled up at the mini mart. 3 months later, their remains were discovered. My office is working with the Glendale Police Department to achieve justice for both of these cases. We urge anyone with information about Lacey's stabbing or the killing of Diana and Jennifer to come forward. The 5th case we are focusing on highlights how improved technology, additional focus, and expanded resources can uncover answers in these cold cases, even after time has passed. Melody Harrison was a teenager in Apache Junction in 1992 when her family reported her missing. There was little progress made on her case until October of 2023, when the Apache Junction Police Department worked with the DNA Doe Project to utilize familial DNA and DNA from remains found more than 30 years earlier to finally identify Melody's body. With this new information, over 30 years after she was killed, Melody was given back her name. Now, with our new cold case unit at the AG's office, we hope to bring Melody and her loved ones justice. And we can't do this alone. That's why I've invited all of you, especially the media and all of the public, to help us. Solving these cases will require the help of the public. Whether it's sharing information, coming forward with tips, or remembering details that may have seemed insignificant at the time. Even the smallest piece of information can make a difference in bringing justice to a family that has been waiting for so long for answers. If you know something, please come forward. I am grateful to the dedicated professionals in our office who will lead this important work, as well as to the many partners in law enforcement who have committed to supporting this effort. It is through collaboration, like our working relationships with local police and with medical examiners throughout the state of Arizona, that we have already seen some success identifying remains and uncovering information in ongoing cold cases. Supervising Special Agent Roger Geisler, to my left, will lead the cold case unit, and he brings a wealth of experience and decades of homicide expertise to the new unit. Special Agent Geisler has served more than 30 years in law enforcement, including with the City of Phoenix Police Department and the Glendale Police Department, where he was instrumental in investigating and solving high-profile cases, including the 26-year-old case from 1981. Special Agent Geisler will oversee both our cold case homicide investigations and our missing and murdered Indigenous people investigations inside this new cold case unit. He will be joined by expert investigators from within our office, including Special Agent Melanie Montano, who is a member of the Navajo Nation, who has been working cold case homicides and missing and murdered Indigenous people cases, as well as organized retail theft cases since joining the Attorney General's office. The team will also be supported by expert prosecutors inside the Attorney General's office, and will have the full resources of my office and the full support of my office. Together, we will do everything in our power to bring closure to the families and justice to the victims of these homicides. To the families who have been waiting, I want you to know this: we see you, we hear you, and we will not give up until justice is done and served. With that, I'd like to invite Deputy Chief to say a few words, if you'd like, about your case and about this effort.
Sure. I'm gonna keep the case, keep some of the specifics kind of quiet for now. We do have some things that we're looking into, but more importantly, we're very excited about the partnership with the Attorney General's office. We have some very capable detectives looking into these cases, but anytime we can partner our resources and our brains together with the Attorney General's office, it's always great. And as the Attorney General mentioned this morning, there's nothing more than we want than justice for the families and some closure. So we're just very excited about that.
All right, any questions? Happy to take any questions.
How will your office choose which cases are looked into? A lot of agencies across the state have cold case units, obviously not a lot of staffing on many of them, but how do you choose them? Is law enforcement going to reach out to you and you'll work with them? Will you work on cases that they're not working on, or you'll work in conjunction with them as they work on a cold case? How will those be chosen?
That's a great question, and I'm gonna let Roger really sort of step up and answer that question. I will say, you're absolutely right. You know, there's just so much need in this area. There's so many cold cases out there. So it is a difficult thing to choose the ones to prioritize, because there's a lot that we could. We obviously are working with law enforcement agencies that want our help and that ask for our help. This is very much a partnership between the Attorney General's office, which is the top law enforcement agency in the state, but also with, you know, local governments and local police departments that are actively working on the cases. But Roger, do you have to say something about that?
Yeah, what I would say is, you know, just to answer your question about how do we select our cases. So we reach out to local agencies. It's mostly the smaller rural agencies that don't have the manpower or the expertise to assist them in their cases. So we get a lot of referrals from them. And so as we do, we evaluate the cases and see, you know, what is involved in the case in order to proceed in the case. Because some cases may not have the evidentiary things that we can, through technology, assist with. But then there are those cases that do, and the ones that do, we do help. We do proceed with those cases. So that's, you know, there's really not a process. It's just as much as we can help, we're going to do the most we can for the families.
Can someone maybe talk a little bit more about some of those resources that are available to the AG's office but not directly to local law enforcement? I'm thinking particularly on the first slide, there was something called forensic genealogy resources. What are those things?
Roger, you want to take that?
Yeah, there are forensic genealogy resources out there like Ofram Labs, those places that we will utilize their resources. There's a lot of universities now getting into the family tree building and reaching out to the universities to do that type of work. The resources are multiple. There's just multiple labs that are now doing the work for us. So we can reach out to any one of those and utilize those resources, especially for the DNA. The advance in those resources for us has really opened up a lot of doors. And so reviewing these cases through these agencies, and again, the smaller agency that may not have the resources or the money to do it, you know, we can assist with that. And so that's our goal, is to get those families, get these people identified in their families, the answers that they desperately need.
Is this going to require an additional budget request to the legislature, or is this moving resources that are being available from the Attorney General's office?
No, this does not require an additional budget request, although obviously I would love it if the legislature would prioritize public safety and not cut our budget. As you know, they cut our budget by 2 to 3% last year. Not helpful, whether it is in relationship to our efforts to go after the Mexican drug cartels, tackle the fentanyl crisis in the state, or investigate cold case homicide cases. I made this decision to prioritize existing resources inside the AG's office. We did go out and hire Roger. My chief of police, Jim Cope, is standing in the back. Is the guy who came to me with this idea, and he's been wanting to do this for years. I don't want to put words in your mouth, Jim, but he's been wanting to do this for years, and I believed in his vision, and I share his vision. This is absolutely something that the Attorney General's office should be doing, and I'm happy to dedicate Roger to it, and then Melanie Montano, who's been here since 2019, I think is ideal for this, and she's going to be really instrumental also in helping us handle the missing and murdered Indigenous peoples cases. So we do have several of those cases ongoing. I don't think we're ready to share any details about them, but I want folks to know that that's important. So I will say, with regard to, and then someone from my staff correct me if I'm wrong, the legislature did appropriate some funds to us several years ago to handle MMIP cases and issues, and we're using some of that money to fund Melanie's salary.
Does the addition or the creation of a cold case unit mean less time spent on those MMIP cases?
No, I think it means more time spent on that because Roger's involved in those. You want to speak to that, Roger?
Again, it's a concerted effort from agents. So when we get those cases and we begin working with other agencies on those type of cases, it's myself and Melanie Montano, but it's also other investigators and agents within the agency. So we always draw from our own resources also to help us. So maybe just reviewing some things, going out, doing some contacts, you know, those type of things. But we do have the resources, and if we don't, we can always reach out to other agencies. You know, the whole point of cold case is to work together statewide, and so that's what our plan is.
It was mentioned earlier that other agencies across the state already have cold case units in place. Is this speaking to some sort of frustration that your office may have with their lack of progress on those cases?
No, I don't think so. It speaks to, the fact that we have resources here at the Attorney General's office that can help them. Some of those agencies don't have these resources, as Roger mentioned. And so, I think it's the duty of the top law enforcement officer of the state of Arizona to help those agencies if they don't have the resources. So I think it's more about, amplifying their efforts, supporting them in a partnership and helping get these cases solved. I think the other thing that I really am excited about is the opportunity to potentially use AI in a positive way, to solve some of these cases and which I think it has the potential to compare details across multiple homicides to connect them as potential serial murderers. And I am looking forward to reaching out to our universities. We've already had some conversations there with university and a college in Arizona about their expertise and whether they can lend that to us.
And just to follow up on that, it was mentioned earlier that this has been something that has been looked at for years now. Why only now? Why not earlier?
Well, I've been the Attorney General for 2 years now, and this is something we've been building for at least a year. Jim, would you say that? About a year, and previous AGs, for whatever reason, didn't think that it was necessary. I disagree with that, and this is a priority of mine. Any other questions on this or anything else?
I've got none other than that. With the legislative session about to start, I'm wondering what changes you'd like to see the legislature take a look at, or just the ESA program, given the office has announced some pretty substantial fraud cases.
Yeah. Well, as I said before, when the ESA program has proven itself to be a big fat target for fraud, and it is keeping my office busy in prosecuting fraud cases. And I think the 2 fraud investigations and prosecutions that we have underway are likely only the tip of the iceberg. That is both sad and sickening from the standpoint of the taxpayers, and frankly, from the standpoint of the money that is being siphoned away from the public education system. But the reforms that I would like to see at a minimum would be that the legislature should, number one, appropriate more money for me to prosecute this fraud. Number 2, the legislature should appropriate more money to the Department of Education to, on the front end of these requests, investigate whether they're fraudulent. As you know, some of these cases, both of these cases involve people who submitted claims for fake kids, and in some cases, fake parents were applying for the money. And submitting fake birth certificates. So it's obvious that the state education department does not have the people and the technology necessary to capture that fraud on the front end. It's a lot easier to stop the fraud on the front end than to prosecute and investigate on the back end. It's very resource intensive to do these prosecutions on the back end. I mean, I will continue to do these prosecutions for as long as I have to, but it's gonna be like playing whack-a-mole with these fraudsters. So, and then, you guys know my view that this program is just too big. It has spiraled out of control way beyond what it was originally intended for, which is to help special needs kids and children who are living with autism. Those are the kids that I think can benefit from this program, but it has become an extremely wasteful and fraud susceptible program. So I would, if I were them, but I'm not, as you know, scale it way, way back. Any other questions? All here together? Have a great, happy New Year. Headed into the great unknown. Okay. All right, thank you guys. One more over.
Talking about unknown in cold cases, what about now that Donald Trump's going to be president, what about the case here in Arizona about those fake electors? I know it's an ongoing investigation, but how that's going to play?
Yeah, so appreciate the question. Been asked several times about whether I intend to drop the fake electors case. I have absolutely no intention of dropping the fake electors case. We are full speed ahead on that case. A grand jury of the state of Arizona indicted 18 people for attempting to overthrow and undermine our democracy. In my mind, there is no graver offense than attempting to destroy the very democracy that millions of Americans died and sacrificed trying to preserve. So we continue. We've got motions that we're responding to. Nick Klingerman, my criminal division chief, is here in the room. We have a great team working hard on that case. We will continue to respond to those motions. We think many of them are frivolous, but we'll respond to them and expect the court to issue some determinations, I think, at the end of the month and into February. But the case will continue apace, regardless of the fact that the government is. Okay. All right, thank you guys for coming down.
Thank you, Angie.
And if anybody needs the slides or anything like that, please let us know. We're happy to pass this. Oh, there we go. Thanks.
Sure.
Not really. Yeah.
Like,
There.
there was like, I tried to do something yesterday, there was like 3 hours for water, but it wasn't, I don't think it was like actually looking at the cases, it was like studying.
You did. I know. I think there was, like, that's not one of the.
Hey, Kris, this is good.
Maybe the. Yes.
So really, when I talk to them,